So thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you so much. It's really a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. So I'm curious. So you're chemical engineer, like how does that translate to a job? Like what is the equivalent to that?
Well, you can pretty much do anything engineering with a chemical engineering degree. It's the catch-all because you learn a little bit of everything. But I really wanted to get into trying to solve global warming,
Okay.
take the biggest possible goal possible. And I ended up working in lithium and lithium extraction to try to build the bridge between fossil fuels and whatever is going to come next. And there's a really inefficient way to collect lithium, and that's being done right now in South America. And then there are much better ways, ion exchange ways. And that's what I got into. And I spent time living in South America, getting the lithium-rich brine out from under the volcanic ground,
Mm.
15,000 feet in the air, and in California, where it's, much less like a desert. Well, actually, I guess it is kind of like a desert.
Certain parts, like where I live, nowhere near a desert, but definitely inland, it can look that way, like Modesto, that kind of area.
Yeah, right, right. Yeah.
So I didn't realize it's fascinating that you and I are having this conversation. In fact, none of us locals knew this, but apparently we had the largest lithium battery factory right here in our town. We didn't know it, and it started on fire like 2 months ago. And it's yeah, and you know how it is with lithium, they can't just like put water on it and make it
They
go out,
cannot.
so they had to let it sort of smolder for
Oh
days.
my gosh.
Yeah, so who would have thought in Little Santa Cruz this is was the biggest lithium storage plant? And so that's kind of what we were been breathing for probably the last 2 months. And so there's a lot of people that are upset over health conditions, and then more
Hmm.
people upset because they're coming back to the state saying, okay, that happened. We want more grants and funding to rebuild. And people are like, wait a minute, we didn't even know this was in our backyard, and now you're already trying to rebuild this.
No kidding.
So
Well,
it's
that's
pretty
rough.
interesting.
Yeah, for those who don't know, the way that lithium catches fire, it's so hot that you just can't put water on it and expect it to go out. That's why you shouldn't carry, overcharged phones on planes because things might go wrong and there's nothing you can do.
Is that right? I always wondered about that rule. I thought it had to do with sort of like maybe interfering with the pilot's like voice and stuff, but it's more that.
Yeah, right. It's because nothing we have can put out lithium fire. It's just we don't have that kind of technology on planes yet.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it'll
Interesting.
burn a hole through the floor.
So it's important to upgrade your phone or not have it fully charged. Like what is my because I'm flying tomorrow. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna be thinking about this.
Yeah, well, I'm sure you're fine. There's just a general degradation that occurs in cell phone lithium-ion batteries, and once that happens, it can become prone to catching on fire if it's overcharged and it's just exposed to too much electricity, catches on fire, and it's just gonna burn until it's out. That's it. But it's usually really quick. It's like that stuff reacts immediately.
Yeah, now as
And
long as
it's
it doesn't catch something else on fire, it'll go out quickly.
like a whole Santa Cruz storage facility, right? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Which, yeah, it
exactly.
went out and then another part cropped up and then it went back on. Yeah, it was going through that for at least like a week or so.
Holy cow. Well, I'm
Yeah.
glad you're all right. I hope people are okay, really.
I mean, there was damage to all the plant life. Like we live in a very eco-friendly nature-isk place with, the levees and ocean and all that. So I think there was a lot of unfortunate damage to the animals out that way.
Uh,
And then, of course, people in this area were breathing it and experiencing different types of side effects. So yeah, I don't know. I
Dang.
hopefully there's no long-term effects there. I personally didn't experience anything, but I'm also pretty healthy, and so I wouldn't expect that I would.
Good. Good. It's good to be healthy, especially
Yeah.
for those kinds of events.
So back to the battery question, just real quick out of curiosity. I know when you're checking in, one of the questions they have is, do you have any lithium batteries? Is that for that reason? Because I always thought it was weird. Like, wait, I can't travel with any batteries. Like, what about my electronics? So that's why that question is there.
It's exactly why it's there. And it's kind of ironic that they would say you can't have any in your carry-on suitcase when your phone is basically a battery with some processors. Like the processors are maybe 10% of the size of the phone. And then the battery is maybe 70% of the phone. So you're
Yeah.
kind of trying to figure out like, why can I do this one, but not that one?
Right. Exactly. Well, and for myself, I carry an iPad, so I'm assuming it has an even bigger
Yeah.
lithium
Oh, for
battery.
sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
but you're safe. I mean, this technology is safe at this point. I'm sure you're fine.
Okay, good. Good to
Yeah,
know.
don't
Thank
worry.
you.
Don't
Thanks
worry. You're
for
gonna be great.
All right, so to your story, I am assuming because I saw your drugs of choice, and it doesn't lend
Mm.
to chemical engineering. It wasn't like you were Breaking Bad out there and making meth, and now you've taken this turn. That's not your story, right?
That's not my story.
Okay. So tell me what is your story? How did you get into recovery?
Oof. Well, it's like the steady evolution of one drug that's more socially acceptable into another one into the less and less socially acceptable. It's when I was growing up, it was me and my mom, and no drinking, definitely no cigarettes, and nothing in my childhood would have brought me to addiction, even though there was some history of addiction in my family. From my home environment, no. And then I get to college, and in college, all the cool people are drinking and smoking, something both of which I have no familiarity with. But I
So
want
all
to
through high school, you never experienced that? It wasn't in your friend groups? That wasn't a part of it?
It wasn't, and it's
Wow.
probably just because I wasn't cool enough to be invited, to those parties.
Or rebelliousness enough, because I was never invited to those, but I'd sit across the street smoking and drinking, like flipping off those kids. Like,
Yeah, hell yeah.
there's different ways of going about it. And because I didn't fit in, so that's how I handled it.
Right. I was always, and I still think I am. I was always on the outside. I can get along with pretty much everybody, but I'm a super creative type. I'm always looking at things as, hey, this is a cool way to do it. How else could we do it? And you become very artistic when you're a kid if you're like that. And unfortunately, this puts you out of the box because you're naturally just looking at things with new eyes or new perspectives.
Sure.
And the people that were doing that stuff were very much the stereotypical jocks and popular kids. It's fine. It's whatever. But yeah, I had no familiarity. And then you get to
Yeah.
college where it doesn't matter who's doing it. The cool kids, the uncool kids, everybody's doing it. If
Oh
you want
yeah,
to fit
free from
in,
their parents, none of that like oversight anymore. It's a free for
yeah,
all.
right, right. It's like, and that's what college kind of is.
It
That's what I
is.
found out. It's a little bit of a pretend world where you get to experiment with everything, for better or worse.
Yeah.
And, I'm smoking a cigarette a Friday night, and then I wake up with a pack, and the next morning I'm like, oh, well, I'm a little hungover. I'll just smoke a cigarette, take the edge off. It's like, what am I doing? I know this is bad. I know
Yeah.
I shouldn't be doing this. My mom taught me not to do this, and here I am. And drinking was a bit of the same thing. It was used to fit in. And alcohol for me, it started when I got to college. It ended much later in life, but it started as a tool to have fun. It was my ability to, or something I leaned on to let go of my inhibitions, which I felt very much were holding me back from expressing myself to the people around me. And I'm pretty sure I'm not alone in using it for something like that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, right. And it's cool when you're in that environment where you're supposed to be experimenting and you're supposed to be going out to parties and whatever, and there's no real consequences. But as soon as that ends and you
Yeah.
have to be an adult and grow up, then you have to change your relationship with alcohol or get rid of it, or it's not going to give you the same results it gave you before. The
Yeah.
relationship fundamentally changes, right? So you're drinking alone instead of with people because you're bored and it's a Wednesday. Okay. Well, if you drink one, you're gonna drink two. You drink two, you'll drink four. And that's pretty much how it went after college. It just my relationship with alcohol became it was a bit of a companion as opposed to something I could use for fun. And then
Yeah,
we can get to the
it's
other drugs, but
interesting. It's interesting you say that, because when my son started college, and I never went, so I didn't really understand the scene, and I was pretty anti because I watched Law and Order. Like, fraternities are terrible. Like, I mean, I really just had no idea what college was like. And so when he went, I went with him, and I was like exposed to that scene, and same sort of feeling. It was like cool, but as a parent, especially for myself, um, as who runs a drug rehab, I was like,
Mm.
wow, Logan, like, I was asking him something. He's like, oh, well, the common thing around here is you can't become an alcoholic in college. Like, you can go as hard as you want. And as soon as college is done, you
Yeah.
go back to normal life. And I'm like, you know, that's not a thing, right? You can't go hard drinking for
Good
four
mom.
years and
Good
then
mom.
all of a sudden expect to turn off that switch when you're literally changing your whole life and you're out of your bubble and it's all new. Do you really think that switch just flips off like that? It does not. That's
Mm.
4 years you've created this new
Hmm.
habit.
Yeah, 100%. And no one told me that.
Yeah.
And it's no one's fault. But holy cow, if I could go back to 19-year-old me and say, listen, dude,
Yeah.
like go have fun, but you gotta be careful with this stuff. It is literally an addictive drug. It will
Yeah.
reprogram your brain to keep taking it and punish you if you don't. That's
Yeah.
how addictive drugs work.
Right. And I think so many people don't realize how addictive and bad alcohol is. It is,
Mm.
like you said in the beginning, so socially acceptable that people don't understand also how dangerous it is.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And that's something I've learned a lot about in my 30s, about the way that it's really just poison to a human being. It's great in laboratories. You know, as a chemical engineer, you use ethanol all the time to clean things.
Oh,
You use it to kill off any organic material that is living material.
yeah.
And
You use it to sterilize from your
exactly.
mouthwash to everything. That's its intention, right?
Right. You know, when we were in COVID and the lockdown and hand
Oh,
sanitizer was everywhere, what do you think the main ingredient in the hand sanitizer is? It's the main ingredient in your favorite booze. It's
yeah.
ethanol. And it tears apart cell linings. It takes apart organic matter. It is
Do you feel
very
like
much a
you could get
poison.
contact high from all that, like all the hand sanitizer and all those means? Do you think that it could have seeped
Mm,
into people? Because I'll tell you, like our demographic went up from 50 to 80% alcohol through the pandemic. And
really?
obviously a lot of it was the stay-at-home drinking, the delivery to your doorstep, the non-essential, like, or it
Yeah.
was essential. But how much do you think like that sanitizer, just sort of putting that in your face, your nose, your mouth all the time, do you think it could
Hmm.
have leaned
I
into
think
that
it
a
would
little
have,
or created more of it?
to get in your bloodstream, it would have had to go through your full layer of skin, and through the veins. I don't think that would, unless people are just putting it in their
Right.
mouth
But
and
maybe they're while they're doing that, they're smelling it and it's creating that trigger,
oh
right?
my
Like, because
gosh.
when you use a good hand sanitizer, you smell that alcohol. You're like, damn, my hands are
Yeah,
clean.
you're
So
right.
I
You're right.
wonder
The
if it
fumes come
starts
through.
to, yeah, you're starting to associate it with something you need because you're conditioning yourself to smell it all the time.
I wonder if it becomes more of a Pavlov thing where you
Mm,
become like maybe you did have a, let's say you had a problem with alcohol, just a slight problem, and you haven't drank in a long time. You know what vodka smells like. And this hand sanitizer, I think it smells exactly like cheap vodka,
right.
right? So it's constantly reawakening your senses to something that you may have put behind you and done away with all the triggers. And suddenly I never thought about that before.
Yeah,
Suddenly you're
same.
introducing a trigger.
Same. And if it's reminding you of a pleasurable time, like when I was in college or that sort of thing, you're like triggering yourself all the time. And when things are hard and scary and tough, you're like, I want to go back to that happy place where things were
Holy
fun and
cow.
good.
Wow, I wonder
Ooh,
if there's been any research into that. I mean, it's very much, it's very possible. Smell is the most correlated sense with memory that we have. You smell something, it's the most efficient at transporting you. So maybe.
yeah. I believe that. I mean, for years when I smelled skunk, and I mean like 20 years, it always took me back to smoking good weed when I was a teenager. Like every time I smell a skunk, I'm like, oh, that reminds me of good weed. It doesn't remind me of skunk. It reminds me of
Yeah,
good
me
weed.
too. First you think weed, and then you think, wait, is it a skunk?
Yeah,
Me
and oh
too.
shit, I should probably be on the lookout here. I don't want to run him over or something. But it's so again, like just to prove your point on smell, like it is super powerful.
It is. It is. And yeah, and that's one thing I've encountered in my life with with the drugs that have come into my life is I never went looking for them. They found me. And this
Mm,
kind of ties into that. It's a bit of a same thread. Like, you try to insulate yourself from your triggers, and then maybe you smell something that reminds you of the vodka that you used to pull off the bottom shelf because it was the cheapest and you wanted to get hammered and you didn't want to spend all your money. But and that's not something that you planned on. You had
Right.
no control over that. And much the same way that I had no control over the way that I found Tramadol or Kratom, they were both introduced to me by other people. And then once you try it, it's like, oh, I didn't know I could feel this way. And
Yeah.
then once you know you could feel that way, it's really hard to forget.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Which is, why we have addiction, because it's creating some type of feeling in ourselves and we're constantly chasing that.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. How do you get introduced to tramadol? That's not like a common drug of choice. That's not like your, like crack, meth, fentanyl. Like it's not your common one.
No, you'd think if there were going to be some painkillers, you would have gone for the hard stuff. But look, so I used to live around the world. I used to do international development program evaluation before I was a chemical engineer. And in that role, I'd spend a year living in this city, in this country, and then a year in another city, in another country. And in 2016, I was living in Liberia, which is in
Mm.
West Africa. Yeah, it's like America's little brother in West Africa. I was living in the capital, working with the education system. And one weekend, my friends and I went up to a surf town in the northern part of the coast of Liberia. And I had a motorcycle. I had this awesome 165cc motorcycle and I wanted to ride it. They were going to go in a SUV. I wanted to ride through the jungle on my motorcycle. And so we went to the coast, tried to surf. I failed. Everybody else did great. It was fun. It was a good time. We come back and these roads in the middle of the jungle are just all tore up.
Mm.
I say that there were potholes like the size of jacuzzis. There really were. They were enormous, and you wouldn't see them until you come past the landing. And naturally, as I'm listening to punk rock and I'm just vibing out in the sun, I miss one and I
Oh,
wipe out and I hit the dirt. And the bike stops. I keep going. Whoa, oh my gosh, where am I? Am I okay? My friends notice I'm no longer following them. And then they come back and like, what happened? I was like, I don't know, but I have a hole in my leg right next to my kneecap because something got in it. I'll never know. But they put me in the
mm,
back of the SUV. Someone else rode my motorcycle with me back to the capital city where we lived. And in the hospital in Monrovia, the capital, I was prescribed Tramadol for the pain.
mm.
And I was given 5 days worth, which I think they thought was a very responsible idea. But I couldn't really feel any pain anyways because the hole had basically just dug out all the nerves. And I was, that was my first experience with opioids. And like
Mhm.
I said, once you know how that feels, you don't really want to stop feeling that way because it feels amazing. Like there's a reason these drugs are so addictive.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that just because I wiped out on a motorcycle in the middle of the jungle on a beach trip, I would enter a year-long addiction. It's
Wow.
like that's how it entered my life. And then I walked into it and that became my reality.
I'll say that's not uncommon. Most opiate addicts don't set out to be opiate addicts, and a lot of them are introduced through things like surgeries, accidents, injuries,
Mm,
things like that. They're introduced to it by their doctors.
right. And it's so ironic, isn't it? I can't really blame them. I don't think they knew what they were doing, but well, that's not. I don't really know what to say actually. You give someone an addictive substance and don't tell them you need to stop. Maybe if they
Yeah.
had told me that I would have, but I didn't
Yeah.
stop.
Well, and like the stop measures back here are so you're so far down the road before pharmacies are talking to each other and doctors are, pegging you as an addict. Like you are so deep
Mm,
into addiction before it's even identified, I believe, back here in the United States that yeah, it's why aren't they educating you? Why aren't they telling you like, look, this is highly addictive. You need to do these 3 days and that's it. There definitely should be some education. But considering where you were, I'm not, I guess, surprised. Like I don't know that every country operates the way we do or has addiction the way we do.
right. And that's a good point. I don't think they do. I
Yeah.
don't think the addiction epidemic has grown roots in other places as much as the United States. Definitely
No, I
not in
think
Liberia.
about, Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I don't know much about Liberia, but I mean, I even think with alcohol, right? In Italy,
Mm.
every night for dinner, they have a glass of wine, but yet you don't see the addiction to alcohol as you do here in the United States.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think the culture has shifted here versus other
I think it's by
places?
design. I think it's
Mm.
all by
Ooh,
design with big pharma and all that to
yeah.
get us all sick so they could be the cure to get us healthy. I think it's 100% between the food and all the other stuff that we're exposed to that other countries aren't. I think they're all
Mm.
contributing factors to it.
Mm.
So, like, for example, just with drug rehab these days, like a full blown residential program like mine, who takes everybody off of drugs and alcohol, is very uncommon because what's acceptable, what insurance wants to pay for, and what Big Pharma wants is here, let's swap out what you're on, put you on Suboxone and a mood stabilizer and something to
Yes.
get you up, something to get you down. Now you're sober, do outpatient. There you go, you're fixed. And that's what's passing as effective drug rehab, but it's not. It's just switching from the illegal or other stuff to their drugs. So I think it's a very malicious and calculated act, personally.
Wow. I love it. I love it. One of the things I really like about Elevate is that you emphasize an alternative to 12 step. I mean, it works for some people, that's true, and I'm not here to denigrate anybody's success in 12 step, but the whole reason QuitKit exists is because I wasn't ready to go to a program like 12 step. It
Mm-hmm.
just wasn't something I was interested in doing, but it's so ubiquitous that if the industry, the addiction recovery industry says, "Oh, you have X addiction, we will put you through Y protocol." It's
Yep.
like, yeah, but what about me? What about the things that I'm capable of as a human being? I don't have the same insecurities or weaknesses as other people, but I very much have my own that may not fit this program. And if there were just more options that said, instead of putting you on another opioid because you're trying to get off this opioid, we'll give you this one,
Yep.
then you wouldn't be locked into this 9 month to 2 year tapering contract with a medical provider that you'll never meet. You know, you'll have
Yeah.
your checkups with your doctor, but it's like Suboxone, man, buprenorphine. Uh, it has the same effect as Kratom, which I quit with the QuitKit. And some people in the Kratom addiction community are using Suboxone to get off Kratom, and it works at when you're taking the Suboxone. But then I hear from people I work with that getting off Suboxone is now something that they're struggling with.
Way
Yeah,
harder.
it makes sense.
And it's amazing like how long you have to do the tapers. And it's almost like, well, it is. It's like methadone. It's worse than the
Hmm.
opiate, but
Hmm.
that's the acceptable one to come off of it. But the problem is kind of like those patches, right? For smoking. People don't come off it. Now they're just
Hmm.
addicted to the patches. Like it's supposed to be a means for detox, but it ends up just being a replacement drug.
Right. I mean, the fact that you've been able to build something, especially since Suboxone prescriptions give like it's a revenue source a lot for rehab clinics. It's amazing that you've been able to build this recovery center, sustain it, and get the word out the way you have. I mean, that's really admirable.
Yeah, thank you. And it's not easy, because insurance pays more if you keep people medicated.
Hmm.
We'd have more clients if that sort of thing. So it is definitely the harder road. But like you said, someone needs to do it because a lot of people don't get or want to get sober because all they know and all they've seen is the AA philosophy. And again, I'm not bashing it either, but if you know that doesn't work for you, how many times are you going to keep going back trying to make it work before you're the insane person? So it's like options need to be out there and people need to be aware of them. Yeah.
I couldn't agree more, But more awareness for the alternatives that we all need,
Yeah. Well, and you
Absolutely.
brought up a real interesting point. Like Kratom is making a very big crash on the scene and it's so openly available, like literally you could get it in the mini market down the road, like
Mm.
it at least out here in California, like that's how
Same here.
available it is and accessible and not illegal, and it's
Hmm.
highly
It is.
addictive. And so it's amazing. And I'm wondering, like, how long does this stuff stay on the shelves in the market? Is anybody even noticing? It's
Mhm.
almost like alcohol. It's just so subtle. It's kind of off the radar, but it's a highly addictive substance that anybody can get at the mini market.
Yeah, I think, I believe that the kratom addiction epidemic will be the next great American epidemic, as the same way that the Sackler family tanked Americans with the OxyContin
Mm-hmm.
epidemic is going to be the way that these kratom extract and 7-hydroxy pills companies are impacting people of all ages. Like I work with people
Yeah.
who are in college, I work with people who are retired, I work with people who are in their 70s who are trying to get off of kratom. And the difference with kratom is it's been used for centuries by the inhabitants of Southeast Asia, like Thailand and Indonesia, where the kratom tree comes from. And when you chew the plain leaf, it just gives you a mild buzz, like a little energy lift and some mild anesthetic properties, a lot like coca leaves. But when you concentrate the active ingredients, metragenine and 7-hydroxymetragenine, into an extract, well, now you have a full-on opioid agonist. The metragenine, which you'll get in the extracts or the little bottles, um, this will get you high like buprenorphine, which is the opiate or opioid in Suboxone. But the 7-hydroxy, the other active ingredient in these kratom leaves, is 10 to 17 times more potent than morphine. I'll say that again,
Wow.
10 to 17 times more potent than morphine. And like you said, you can
Wow.
just go fill up your gas tank, walk inside, and buy what I call dime store heroin. And
Yeah.
I'm not the only one who calls it that, but gas station heroin, it's right there.
Yeah.
And there's no regulation on it in most states. The awareness on it is woefully inadequate, like the information campaigns that could be going on.
Yeah.
No,
There's
this
none.
stuff is marketed as a health tonic. It's an alternative to alcohol so that you can hang out and have a sober, good time with your buddies. But it's like, no, dude, you are engaging in the same activity that the guy on the street that you might point at and say, oh, I feel bad for that guy. That's the same stuff in your blood.
Yeah. And you're hanging out with your friends drinking while you're high on an opiate. Like, oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so much better. Yeah,
Yeah,
there
talk
is
about swapping one for the other, man.
absolutely. And like you said, there is just zero awareness of it being out there. It has been out there for years and it was kind of unknown, but I've definitely noticed lately it's a lot, more people are coming in with that as their drug of choice. And why not? Cheap, easy.
Mm,
Is it legal out there? Do you in like
oh,
South
for sure.
Carolina, you can get it in your gas stations kind of thing?
Yeah, I got it here until last July when I decided I was done drinking something to be happy, and I was just done with it.
Yeah.
It's only banned in 6 states.
Okay.
That's a lot of leftover states, right? And I've sent out quick kits to Hawaii and Alaska. I mean, all the way in the islands of Alaska. It's you can get it there.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure. Well, it's dark there a lot, you know. They got to keep
Yeah.
everybody sort of sedated and subdued. It's depressing. So tell me about the Quick Kick. Is this something that you created? This is your invention?
Yeah, I see a lot of myself in you, and I wanted a better way. I wanted a better treatment. I didn't want to go to a doctor and say, "Hey, I have a problem," but I know that by saying that, you're gonna give me a pill. I didn't want to do that, um, and I wasn't, to the point where I was high all day and almost broke. So I didn't want to enter uh, an intensive rehab program. I just wanted to find another way. And I'm a chemical engineer, program evaluator, and I have extensive experience in research. So I said, okay, I'm going to go online and I'm going to look at the medical research on fighting opioid use disorder symptoms with anything over the counter, anything I don't need a prescription for. And very much to my surprise, there's a voluminous amount of literature out there. There are valid, reliable clinical studies from reputable institutions around the world that have studied in rats, mice, and humans. If you take this supplement, you will combat this or these withdrawal symptoms from opioid use disorder. And I thought, oh, awesome. So after a week or two, I put together all my findings and I said, I know these withdrawal symptoms are going to kick in the morning. For those of you who don't know, going through kratom withdrawals it's a bit like hell on earth. It's very much an analog of going through heroin withdrawals.
Fentanyl
Um,
withdrawals. Yeah, all of it. Yep.
yeah, yeah, all of the bad things there map to kratom.
Yeah.
And so if you try to quit, you can have all the best intentions of the world, but your brain and your neurochemistry is going to kick your ass and it's going to say, no, 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 you need to go back on it. So it's like, I didn't want to do that.
Yeah.
So I said, I know these ones come in the morning. I know these are in the afternoon. I know these are in the nighttime. And I put together a regimen for the morning, afternoon, and nighttime. And and I walked out of the addiction, man. I said, I'm done. I posted my commitment in an online support community. And the day I did that was the last day I used Kratom.
Wow.
And the QuitKit took it for the next 3 weeks. And here I am doing QuitKit full time, helping people around the country.
That's amazing. And have you seen huge success? Like people are like, that was so much easier than I thought. Like what is the response you got?
It's been unanimously positive. Speaking of heroin, one gentleman sent me a review about a week ago, and he said he was an ex-intravenous heroin user who got
Mm,
sober for a while, 8 years, and then Kratom found him, and he found his way into a new addiction that was very much like his old one, and he had tried, quote, everything under the sun to quit until he found QuitKit. And then he was able to get through the withdrawals. He was able to minimize the withdrawals and quit. And now he's sober again. Heroin to
that's amazing.
kratom.
That's
Oh
amazing.
man, I can only imagine how much suffering he was going through. But now he's on the other side. And this is a very common narrative for people who use the quick kit.
I love that. Back in the day, like when I first got into treatment and running it for probably the first 10, 15 years, we did every detox completely holistically. It was vitamins, it was, different types of touch therapy, that sort of thing. It was 100% holistic. Fast
Hmm.
forward, I mean, we don't even have somebody get off pot without some type of wean down because of just like the different kinds of stuff that people are on, safety, liability, all those kinds of things. And we're just so
Hmm.
now conditioned to this. So I think it's amazing. And I fully support your ability to be able to do this naturally because it can be done. We did it for years and years and years and years and years. And it's only been in like the last 10 years where it was deemed, possibly not safe or that type of thing. But that's absolutely not true. It will be uncomfortable. I mean, and maybe for some people there is who have underlying seizures or, different situations going on. However, I love that you're sort of showing that it can be safe and you don't have to medicate your way all the way through it.
Hmm. Yeah, you don't need synthetic pills to get you through, your recovery. It can help you. If it helps you, awesome. Again, I'm not here to denigrate anything that's helped people. I'm not.
Yeah.
But I wanted the alternative and I created it. And, we look at, so let's take a multivitamin, for example. When I thought of supplements, I thought of my one a day, where it's
Mm,
like, yeah, vitamin C, vitamin D, all that stuff. Is it really working? I can't feel it.
yeah.
With the Quick Kit, you can feel it. One of the primary ingredients, for example, in the morning dose is levodopa. It is the precursor to dopamine. You can actually get the precursor to dopamine in supplement form, which is amazing. And if
Yeah.
you're in withdrawals, let's say it's day one of withdrawals and you're hitting the point where 24 hours go by and your brain is like, we really need this drug. We don't know how to operate without it. Your neurochemistry is waiting for it. Well, dopamine is one of the most hindered neurotransmitters from withdrawal.
Hmm.
Through chronic drug abuse and particularly opioid abuse, you start to store less dopamine over time, and your dopamine receptors become downregulated. And this is because you're artificially stimulating them every day for activities that you shouldn't be getting reward feelings for. And your brain knows this. It's like, oh, you're sitting on the couch and you're getting high. These emotions and these feelings are usually reserved for when you see your son for the first time in your life, or like you get that big promotion, or
Yeah.
and so it says, no, we're gonna tune this down. And then you stop. And then your brain has less dopamine,
Yeah.
and any dopamine you do have impacts you less. So you feel like you can't connect to any pleasure in the world. You have no motivation. You're totally fatigued. There's no way to attach to the good things. And I know what that feels like. It's like hell on earth. But you can take something, it's called Mucuna pruriens. It has a concentration of L-dopa, levodopa in it. And that's one of the primary ingredients in my morning dose. It just gives you dopamine. Now, I don't
Mm.
think you should do this every day till you die because it'll have the same effect. But for 3 weeks, while your brain is building bridges again, it's absolutely fundamental. And it changes the way that you feel in the morning. It really does.
So it's kind of like having your morning cup of coffee. It gives you some
Yeah,
energy, but it also, for me, calms my nerves. You know, some people do it to get this, but for me, I'm like, yeah, now I can do the day.
I'm the same. I'm the same. Yeah, if picture a mechanic in your head waiting for a cup of coffee, levodopa will do that. He's like,
Wow.
I gotta fix this brain. I got
Yeah.
I got
Yeah.
5 to 7 days to flush this stuff out of the system. Give me something.
Yeah.
Yeah, there
Oh,
you
I
go.
love that.
That's a cool analogy. I like that.
I love that. Okay, good. So what's the afternoon dose look like?
Well, so in the afternoon for me, what I would face is an onset of cravings and an inability to sit still. I would really have this fight or flight where I'd just be like, I can't focus. I need to go use. So the afternoon dose is all about calm, clarity of mind, and focus. And that there might be some ingredients that people are familiar with. L-theanine is a calming agent. Ashwagandha, which is an
Mm-hmm.
adaptogen, which it lowers the cortisol release. Cortisol is a stress hormone, so it impedes the release of cortisol. And then you have L-tyrosine, which is the precursor to levodopa. So you still have dopamine coming into your body. It's just at a slowed rate. And
Mm.
then you have vitamin C, which is absolutely instrumental for almost everything when you're in withdrawals because it just protects you from what's called free radicals, oxidative species that attack your cells, attack your brain, attacks any organic matter in your body. And it says, I volunteer as tribute, vitamin C volunteers and gets attacked by these instead. And finally,
Oh, that's
N-acetylcysteine.
such a cute way to put that.
That's what I
I'm like,
think about. I'm
oh, look
like,
at you, vitamin C. I love
yeah, it's just like I'll lay down my life for you, man. It's like, thank you, vitamin C.
you. That's
Thank you.
amazing.
Should eat more oranges. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And what was
And
the last one?
the last one, N-acetylcysteine. It's an amino acid that's also in the morning dose, and this has been proven to fight cravings. It does this by inhibiting overactive neurotransmitter activity. And when you're in withdrawals, man, your neurotransmitters are just trying to figure out which way to go, and that makes you feel fight or flight. That makes you feel like you need to get up and use. It's a craving related emotion. And N-acetylcysteine comes in and kind of like puts a pillow on that and tamps it
Wow,
down.
amazing. Okay, good. And then there's the nighttime one. Is that correct?
Right. Can you remember when you were dealing with addiction and trying to get clean, what it was like trying to go to sleep?
Yeah, that's the number one thing like our clients experience for like the first week or two. And we put in, exercise, mindfulness, vitamins and stuff like that. But even with all that, it's still sleep is the biggest challenge.
It's actually really gratifying to hear you say that because for me it was the same. For my clients, it's the same.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, when you're sleeping is when your brain does the most repairs. That's when it can use the energy it would otherwise use to animate your body to start rebuilding cells and rewiring your neurochemistry. If you can't sleep well, that can't happen effectively. And it
Mm.
happens best, you're most able to repair yourself in deep wave sleep. REM sleep is also important, but deep wave sleep is when you really slow down and your brain can get to work. So I said,
And
how can I
deep
get
wave is below REM, right?
Yes, yes, exactly. Your heart
Yeah.
rate slows, your brain
Yeah.
activity slows,
Yeah.
and that's when things can you're like, okay, now that this is all done, we can get to work.
Yeah.
So if you can't enter deep wave sleep, you're gonna have a hard time being awake. It's
Yeah.
just put that way.
Yeah, you're
So
like the
it's like, how
walking
can I
dead. You're like
promote?
going through the motions, but you're like checked out, you're sensitive, you're volatile, you're emotional, you're lethargic, like all the things.
And you know that there's one way to make it better, right? If
Mm.
you feel all those terrible feelings, it's like, yeah, just go get that thing and you'll be right. And you're like, shut up, I'm trying to
Yeah.
quit this. You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So the nighttime dose, you this is a really interesting array of ingredients here. I love this one because they all work together. So first of all, you get so much of your brain chemicals through your diet, something I
Hmm.
didn't know. But serotonin, you get 90% of your serotonin through your diet, and it comes in as something called L-tryptophan. It's an amino acid that you get through white meat, for example, through
Hmm.
turkey. And L-tryptophan gets converted into serotonin. Serotonin is the happiness molecule. It is a natural mood stabilizer that your brain uses to make you feel good, for lack of a better word, or
Yeah.
comfortable or happy. But at night, when the sun goes down and the lights go off, your brain notices this and starts converting any serotonin in your body into melatonin. And melatonin is the sleep hormone. It
Yeah.
initiates the sleep-wake cycle. So one of the ingredients in the nighttime dose is L-tryptophan. It gives you a dose of that so that throughout the night it's steadily converting into the happiness molecule and then into the sleep-wake hormone. I also include melatonin so that you have a real quick injection of something that'll make you tired. And then there's GABA, which is the short form for gamma aminobutyric acid. Don't worry about that, it's not on the quiz. GABA,
Thank God. As long as I don't have to pronounce it.
this is your brain's primary neurotransmitter inhibitor. So if something is going wrong or firing incorrectly and you have a healthy brain otherwise, GABA comes down to tamp it down and say, all right, you're excited. This is not helping us. Relax.
Yeah.
And so if you take GABA natural or you take it through supplement, you give yourself something that is in short supply when you're in withdrawals, and that is GABA. Because like all other neurotransmitters, you're in short supply and they're not being used correctly. So you take GABA with magnesium, particularly magnesium glycinate because it has a higher bioavailability. And magnesium is a little bit like a ferry boat captain for GABA. It says, oh, I know where we need to go. You need to go to the GABA receptors over here, and it helps it bind to the GABA receptors. Much less likelihood that it will without it in the QuitKit. So I put the glycinate in there, and that helps you relax before you go to sleep.
Yep.
So you take
Calms
this
those
60 minutes.
nerves, calms all that stuff. Like I religiously take magnesium every night.
And you probably notice a difference. Magnesium is excellent at providing relaxation for
Yeah.
exactly that reason.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you get the melatonin, you get the L-tryptophan, which becomes melatonin, you get the GABA and magnesium partnership, and then I put vitamin C in there one more time because, like I said, at night your repairs are underway and you really need an antioxidant.
I love that. Do you have any B vitamins in any of
Yeah.
these?
Yes, in the morning dose, you have a B complex as well as the levodopa. You also have N-acetylcysteine, pre and probiotics,
Awesome.
and to help with the microbiome. Excuse me, to help with the gut microbiome, you have the pre and probiotics, and then vitamin C in there as well.
Awesome. Yeah, because I used to be very versed in all these different things. And so, it warms my heart hearing about them. But I knew that when you're having that much B, you have to balance that, or that much C, you have to balance it with the B, or else you're going to create a deficiency in
Hmm,
one or the other. So you can't have too much B or you'll get deficiency in C and vice versa. So I love hearing that there is the B in there to counter all the C, which is awesome. And then the
absolutely.
second thing, which I think is amazing, and again, we used to take this too, and now you've inspired me. I'm like, dude, we got to get that back in, is the tryptophan, because I
Hmm,
personally find it way more effective than melatonin. Melatonin always, when I had taken it, could make me feel like a little hungover the next day, like a little foggy, like a little
yes.
almost medicated because it works so good. But tryptophan never made me feel that way. It just had a different effect on me that I really love. And for people who don't know what tryptophan is, think about Thanksgiving, your best turkey dinner. Everybody eats it, we share in it, and then within about an hour, everyone's like, I need a fucking nap. I mean, maybe we're overeating and eating other bad foods, but the tryptophan in the turkey really has that like almost drug to
Yeah.
relax you so much to the point of sleeping.
It's amazing. Once I learned about this, I thought, oh, that's why when we're done with Thanksgiving dinner, we all feel really nice and warm and relaxed.
Yeah,
And then about half an hour later, we're like, we need to nap. Because that's
totally.
the transition of tryptophan. It goes from an amino acid into serotonin into melatonin.
I love that. Is there tryptophan in turkey or in chicken, or is it only in
Yes.
turkey?
Yes,
So
it's in
it's in
chicken as
chicken
well.
as well.
It's just less concentrated.
Gotcha. Okay, that's good information to have.
Yeah.
So someone orders the kit from you and they take this for 3 weeks. Is it
Mhm.
only effective for opiates, or are people able to take it for other drugs of choice like alcohol or cocaine or that sort of thing?
Yeah, it's well, first of all, I am not a medical professional, but it is designed to attack the withdrawals that I described, which map, as I have personal experience with, to alcohol withdrawal as well,
Okay.
especially the restlessness and the cravings and the lack of energy and the mental fog. So while it's not gonna like don't if you have a real issue, you might experience the delirium tremens maybe or the seizures. If you're at that level, it cannot help with that. It will not help with that.
Which is the
But
most dangerous part about coming off alcohol. And we've seen it more and more lately. People who didn't even know
really,
this stuff would happen. Oh, yeah.
yeah,
Alcohol
I
sounds
was
really
always
bad.
afraid
I
that I
don't
was
know if
gonna
they're
get to that
making
point.
it stronger, if people's bodies are reacting more because of COVID or vaccines, but the
Hmm.
level of physical addiction from alcohol is like the craziest thing I've seen.
Can you tell me more about that?
Yeah, I mean, like I just sort of observing because I've been doing this for 30 years and watching the different trends. And like I said, we used to do everything completely, holistically, but especially in the last 5 years since the inception of the pandemic and everything, the majority of people coming in are on alcohol, and the severity of their physical, I mean, I want to call it an addiction, but it's also just the damage is crazy. Like I've seen 20-year-old kids a week
Hmm.
after leaving detox having seizures for no
Oh no.
reason, like, and they never had a history of seizures. We've seen multiple people come in for treatment, but they're so either the amounts that they're taking of their body is so bad they've had to be put into medically induced comas in order to even
Hmm.
get through the DTs of the severity. So like I said, I mean, and there's no um, demographic that's devoid of seeing these kind of things, from young kids to older people to heavy binge drinking to just occasionally for the last 40 years. Like there is no rhyme or reason to who's going to have these severe effects compared to who could just take your vitamins and be totally fine. You just don't
Hmm.
know.
Yeah. I
I think maybe damage to livers, like I'm not quite sure. There's something that's creating a worse effect on people for sure.
One of the most insidious parts about alcohol and probably cigarettes as well is it's hard to know exactly what's going on under the hood when you're doing
Mm,
something like this and all you're getting is hungover. And it's like, all right, I know in a few hours I'll feel better. And then by tomorrow, I'll probably feel pretty good. But like, behind the curtain, your body is undergoing this constant state of stress,
yeah.
constantly trying to fix the damage that you're doing to it. And you just don't know because the human being, the machine we have is so incredibly effective at keeping us alive. So
As
like you
well as
said, it's hard to.
repairing with like what you're talking about. It also has that amazing ability to repair all that shit when you put the right stuff into
Yeah. No
it.
doubt. Like I think about, man, I don't know when this was, but maybe like 5 years ago even, I thought if I could stack all the bottles I've drank, I wonder if it would reach the moon. And it's just like the body's just like, yeah, okay, we can handle that. Sure. You
Yeah.
kill off some of your liver, it can regrow itself. Like that's bananas, man, but
Yeah.
it's there.
It's there. And that's why, it's never too late to come to rehab, to get healthy, to do all the things, because the body has such a remarkable ability to heal if you give it the time and consistency to do so.
Right. I completely agree. Do you guys that elevate, do you work with, and this might sound a little whatever, but like conscious versus subconscious alignment, how you have your conscious brain telling you, yeah, you want to quit, but your subconscious brain is still convinced that you're an addict, and getting them to align is like unlocks being able to leave the addiction.
Not verbatim like that, but certainly there's things that we do throughout the program that shows them that their actions and reactions aren't necessarily under their control. And so there's a
Mm.
lot of almost reprogramming and creating new neural pathways in order to not have that as the go-to. So we'll do exercises like confronting triggers where they expose themselves to these highly volatile, scenarios from their past, whether person, place, or thing, and almost to the point where we're diffusing the reaction that they would normally get if they saw those, so that when they go back to the real world, they don't get that thing when they see the liquor store, when they see their parent, or whatever it is. So we do things sort of in a roundabout way, I think, without necessarily overtly describing it that way.
Yeah, I think that's very much the same thing. It's like subconscious conditioning because your thought can focus on maybe one or two things, but behind the scenes, like I said, your body is maintaining itself. There are a million reactions occurring at any given second, and when you develop an addiction, unfortunately, your first impression of the drug is a good one.
Yeah.
And you think, like me with alcohol in college, I thought, oh, this unlocks my ability to be social without worry. Fantastic. Subconscious says, okay, we're going to observe this for a few times. All right, it's a pleasure activity. This activity brings pleasure, files it away. Subconscious doesn't go back and review its notes. It's not what it does. It's there to evaluate a scenario so that it doesn't have to dedicate immense mental energy to an activity every time you do it. Otherwise, driving would be as harrowing as the first time that you did it. But
Yeah.
we drive and we daydream. Same thing when we take a drink. But the first time you take a drink, you're probably like, oh my God, what is this? And that's why it's like you try to make the subconscious go back to the drawing board and review its notes. Like, no, I'm busy. You
Yeah.
have to convince me, you have to condition me to think and rethink that this is actually harming me. And for me, QuitKit absolutely helps you manage your withdrawals. I think it's an instrumental part of a recovery,
Yeah.
but it's not going to solve your addiction. Like, it's not going to suddenly flip that switch. That is on you and your community to, like you said, reprogram and condition that part of your brain that even though you're screaming, I want to quit, still tells you to go get a drink.
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
can do it. You absolutely can do it if you take a different approach than whatever hasn't worked in the past. I think if something didn't work before, try something new.
Yeah.
If that didn't work, try something new. Make a new habit and make that habit quitting. If that didn't work, try another one. Never give up quitting. Make a habit out of breaking your habit. That's what I said.
Oh, that's a great little soundbite right there. Make a
Yeah.
habit out of changing your habit.
Yeah, make a habit out of, yeah, breaking your habit.
Of breaking your habit. Yeah, I love that. And that's exactly what you did, right? Because, you only saw one way. And so you had to basically create and invent your own way in order to achieve what you've been able to achieve.
Sure. And in the process of learning all the scientific reactions, you really see what the fundamental problem is. And you're like, oh, now that I've shined a light on it,
Yeah.
I know that it's not some big bad monster living in the darkness trying to sit on top of me. It's like, no, these are just chemical reactions. And that gave me a lot of agency to take control over my addiction.
Yeah. I love that. So tell me about this. Because I've had a few people on here and we've talked about sort of the scientific effects. So,
Hmm.
for example, at Elevate, we're very much into sort of positive psychology, learning to reward and acknowledge positive things, learning to take responsibility for perhaps negative things, but not letting those things sort of rule our lives. Like it's a way of living as opposed to just, like you said, just a detox. I'm just getting off drugs. Like we're literally reteaching someone how to live their life in a different way than addiction has had them. So with people in the AA or NA community, it can be that they're sober, but there's zero joy in life. And
Hmm.
I'm wondering if, well, and I know about the chemical process that's possibly fueling that, where yes, you're not using, but you want to be using, so therefore you're freaking miserable. What do you think is the what do you think is the chemical behind that? What's creating that, or the lack of that? It sounds like lack of serotonin, or that sort of thing. So maybe something like that's an easy fix that's overlooked.
Uh, th- What a great question. Thank you for asking. We should talk about this. The people I've worked with, the post-acute withdrawal symptoms are real. And some of that is a chemical imbalance where, okay, so for those of you who don't know, the acute withdrawal period is about 5 to 7 days. That's when your body's getting rid of your drug of choice from your body. It takes about a week, and then that will be out. And that's when the real pain is, like the actual, like, can't get out of my head pain will be from withdrawals. But then after that, it may take you longer to continue to rebalance the mental chemistry. And that's not abnormal. And you may be suffering during that period as well. As she said, you might not feel the ability to have pleasure in otherwise pleasurable activities. So it might be a lack of dopamine. It might be the fact that your receptors have been so badly mismanaged for so many years that it's just going to take time. But I think that's only half the story. I think where it really comes into play is picture a highway that you used to drive towards your favorite activity before you took your drug. Picture that highway. It was you knew it well. You didn't have to think about doing it, and you arrived at your destination, at your favorite activity. Then you started, let's say, drinking or using an opioid. That was a new highway that your brain started building. And that new highway got you there in a quote more pleasurable way, at least in the beginning. Well, that highway is very real. It actually got formed. New neural tissue was built into your brain by your brain to get you to your favorite activity now with a new route by taking the drug. And you become so used to using that new highway that once you try to switch back, you can look at it as two different perspectives. It's like, oh man, I don't know how to do it. I'm so used to doing it this way. This way used to give me pleasure. I used to get benefit from this. Maybe I still do. If you look at it that way, you will miss taking that drug highway. This metaphor is getting convoluted. You will miss taking the drug highway if you look at it like something you used to benefit from. And as long as you miss it, that very real neural highway in your head, you will suffer because you will feel like you're being deprived. And if you feel like you are being deprived and you are the deprivor, you will be angry at yourself. You will be angry at the activity that you used to love for not giving you the pleasure it used to give you. However, if you are able to switch back to the first highway with an attitude of, thank God I don't have to take that freaking highway anymore, and I'm
Yeah.
free to
Yeah.
take the first one, that activity you love will never shine brighter than that
Yeah.
moment when you get there sober and proud that you don't have to do that drug anymore. And at that point, I don't care what your dopamine balance is. I don't care how messed up your opioid receptors are. You will feel good. And that is a mental thing. That is a psychological thing.
Absolutely. And do you think that gratitude creates that?
Oh,
Like you
100%.
just said, thank God I'm not doing that, because I find when things are very hard, if I start looking at things through the lens of gratitude, like, yes, this sucks, but remember when this happened and that, and I'm like, oh shit, this is nothing. Like when I reframe things to look at it through a lens of gratitude or in a different way, it no longer affects me in the same manner as when I'm looking at this big, awful, terrible thing that's going on in my life. It's just a reframing. And
Oh,
it could be the same
100%.
exact situation. You're just looking at it in a different way.
Yeah, there is nothing worse than feeling enslaved to something. Conversely, there is nothing better than finally feeling free from it. So if you take the finally free, I mean, I don't care, like anything in your life before that, there's nothing better than feeling free from an addiction, from my experience, and being
Yeah.
able to be happy without the drug. And that's
Yeah.
waiting for you. If you're struggling with addiction right now, I promise you, I'm no different than you. Like,
Yeah.
that's there for you right now.
Yeah, I love that. And it's funny because again, I think there's some element and I think as addicts or former addicts and alcoholics, we can be very self-critical, a lot of negative self-talk, guilt, shame, all these very lower feelings, and
Mm,
I'm not saying
mhm.
lower, they're just feelings, but on a scale of how it makes you feel like shit because now you're starting to
Yeah.
confront all the shit that you did and the
Hell
damage
yeah.
and all the different things. And then you beat yourself up over it. And then you like feel guilty about it. And then you can stay in that area too. And so that it's like equally important to take accountability, but then to also acknowledge those little milestones and those little steps and to feel validated for the hard work that's going into it and giving yourself a pat on the back or grace when you had a hard day. Like there's the other side of it where you either with the group that you're around, the people that you're around, or you need to learn how to give to yourself. And that's part of that whole reprogramming is because we're so
Mm.
used to being the other way that it really takes a lot of work to recreate that new you that acknowledges and validates and takes like credit for doing things and takes compliments and that sort of thing. It's almost a whole retrain that needs to be done.
Yeah. And it's ironic that, you would be the one who's tasked with trying to fix that negative self-talk when you're the one who's giving it to yourself. But without the drugs sitting on top of you, it's actually pretty easy. When I was addicted to Kratom, which was about a year, I got suicidal, man. I just felt like I was totally powerless. Every day I took it, I was like, what's wrong with you? You're killing yourself. You're wasting your time. You're not XYZ. You are not blah, 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 right? Or if it is you are, it's bad. And that was on replay every day. And it's like, how can these other people who love you see things in you that you can't see in yourself? Are they wrong? Have you misguided them? And then I got sober, and it's like, oh, no, they were right. I actually, I'm not so bad, actually. I am good at that, or I am good at that, or I am worthy of this, and I am worthy of that. They're not dumb. They weren't wrong. They're actually really smart.
Yeah.
And they saw the truth in you the whole time. And
Yeah.
that's, I swear, for every addict, the narrative will be the same. When you stop using the drugs, stop talking to you, you'll see just how great you have always been.
Yeah. But you have to look, right? Because we're so conditioned to just look at the bad to justify our addiction that it really takes a concerted effort to look and sort of find these things as well. I mean, I know for myself, I didn't even know the self-talk that I was
Mm.
doing to myself until I verbalized it out loud. And I had someone say, dude, really? Like you think that way? Like, would you say that to your friend? I'm like, no. Would you even say that to your enemy? I'm like, no, but I gotta, and they're like, stop. And it was like, it literally took me saying it out loud to someone else to mirror back to me for me to go, holy shit.
Yeah,
I
dude,
do say that
absolutely.
to myself. That's terrible.
It is. And it really takes a community to be able to bring that realization out of you. I really think joining a community is so important.
Oh,
People will
yeah.
tell you, hey, shut up. You're
Yeah.
awesome. And they won't even know you. They'll be like,
Yep.
I got your
Yep.
back and I just met you. And wow, that feels good. It wakes you up. It like rattles you, wakes you up.
Yeah. Well, and that's why I loved CrossFit so much. And why I was like, CrossFit has to go in my program because it's a community exercise. So not only are you getting those feel good chemicals from getting all your endorphins going and, all
Mm.
that, but you're also getting that community aspect, which is like community is like the opposite of addiction. So if you can infuse community into
Oh,
people, the high fives, the good job, and you got this, or just, all the different things of people pouring into you while you're doing the work, like there's nothing better than that.
I completely agree. Yeah, I love that. CrossFit's an excellent arena for that too, because you're breaking your body down and you're lifting each other up.
Yeah. And you're suffering together. There's no like hierarchy. You're like all in it together. The levels are from beginner to the most experienced person. You're all students doing the workout. It's equally hard for everybody. It's just you can adjust it to what is your
Right.
physical ability and mental ability, as opposed to the standard that the new person is never going to get. Nobody cares. In fact, it's the people who are like brand new and struggling the most that get the biggest cheers and we can do this and you're doing great kind of thing.
No, I love that. I had the same experience when I did CrossFit for about a year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got to get back in there, man.
I know. Ugh, eesh.
I'm kidding. I don't know what your fitness level is. I'm just messing with you. Wow, you have been so fascinating to talk to. I really appreciate this. And let's connect after this, because now I'm going, dude, maybe I need to get these vitamins back into the program.
Yeah.
Let's talk about some type of bulk thing. Like I would love to, try these. And again, not for the same reasons that I would have the clients, but I mean, you kind of sold me on wanting to take them just to feel better for a while,
Yeah.
just to do like I ate really crappy over the holidays and I'm having a struggle getting it all back in together. Like it feels like you could utilize it for anything to sort of do a reset and start to feel better.
I think you can. Yeah, using drugs and going through withdrawals is not the only way that you can become, mismatched in your neurochemistry. So it's not going to be exclusively for that. But I would love to talk with you about QuitKit and
Yeah.
any interest you have in that. And for anybody who wants to, send me an email, visit my website. But
Yes.
um,
So tell them where and how that is.
sure, you can go to www.tryquitkit.com. That's TRYQUITKIT, tryquitkit.com. And email me directly. I'd love to hear from you. Quick hit or no, I'd love to hear from you. Matt, at tryquitkit.com.
Oh, nice. Awesome. And so then your website, it has like pricing, it has all the different things
Yep. You'll have a full breakdown of all of the ingredients. So let's say you only want to try one, you don't want to get the quick hit now. You go look at what's there, see if it's right for you, try it on your own. But yeah, we have free shipping and money back guarantee. I think that's the most important thing. The
wow.
last thing I want to do is sell anybody a bill of goods when they've been suffering. So if it
Yeah.
doesn't work for you, I will give you your money back. But the results have been really good. So I hope it does work for you.
Awesome. And like you said, you're totally available. So if there's questions, like if a person's like, I don't know which one's right for me, or I don't know if I want to do the whole thing, you're totally available to help sort of coach them through on what could be their best solution, right?
Yeah, and at this point, I've worked with enough people that I have some background in maybe you have some condition or something that you have question about. I might be able to have advice on that. Again, I'm not a doctor, but I might be able to coach you through that. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciated our conversation today. I felt like it was
Me
very
too.
educational and enlightening.
Thank you so much. Again, it's a total honor to talk with you. I mean, you're a rock star, so even being here is just such an honor. So thank you.
Thank you. And thanks for the knowledge about the battery. I'm going to make sure I enter the plane with half a battery.
Yeah, just that. Break the phone in half. Be like, look, it's only
Look,
half.
I cannot be full battery, so it might die by the time I get to the other side, but I am not doing it. Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right. Have a great week.
Thank you.
Cool. We good? Yeah, so let's talk. I mean, I don't even know what your kit costs. And I didn't know if you wanted to put that out there. I'd prefer people, like go to your website and check it out for themselves before they made that decision. Oh, we'll edit this out, but I'm just curious.
Gotcha.
So what is the cost of the kit?
It's $54.99.
That's it for 3 weeks of morning, afternoon, and dinner?
Yeah, yeah. And hearing you say that is it's pretty much what I'm hearing. Like, really, only that? I wanted to
Dude, that's
give
like 20
people,
bucks a week. That's amazing.
yeah, if you spent 50 a day on Kratom, which is what I used to spend, I like my whole thing was trade 1 day's, spend and get a lifetime free. But maybe in the future it'll go up, but right now that's what it's at.
So I'm going to have them edit that out, but I want us to talk about that because I think that is absolutely phenomenal. If I was curious, I might have been like, I don't know. But hearing that, I would be like, fuck yeah, let's do this. So let's get
Okay,
that
sure,
in
yeah.
there. All right. So
Okay.
I'm curious, Matt, how much is like, say a person wants to do the full 3 weeks, all three servings, I guess it is throughout the day. How much does that cost?
It's 54.99. I tried to price it so that the daily amount that I spent on Kratom, which was just about $50, you would trade what you might spend in 1 day for a lifetime free of the drug.
Dude, that's amazing. Like that's less than $20 a week to fully rewire, refix, do all the things in the body. Like that is a tremendous deal. Like I want to get it. I mean, I will get it because I want to try it out. And I'm not going to have other people do something that I won't do first. But I think that is absolutely phenomenal. And it just shows how much you care and how much you're trying to be of service to people to help them. This is like the opposite of, you know, an overpriced, under promising type of, well, it's not a drug. It is absolutely
Mm,
a supplement.
right. Yeah, I'm here to help people. That's it. I just want them to have what I wish I had. That's it.
So quality wise, I'm assuming you use like all the best ingredients or really good ones, organic, like non-GMO.
Right, right, exactly that. And they are certified good manufacturing practices, which is a certification you can only get if you meet really high standards.
Wow.
Um, and it's produced in a manufacturing facility that is up to that CGMP standard. And then I have my certificate of analysis that shows that everything is in spec. There's no extra, heavy metals or anything like that. No, 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 not at all. This is all quality stuff that has been third party tested and lab manufactured.
I think that's amazing because I think this is can be a problem with a lot of people is they take supplements. Let's say they grab them off the shelf at Rite Aid. They think they're
Mm.
taking the right things and doing the right things, but either there's a bunch of other crap that's thrown in there with them, or the quality of ingredients is so bad that it's almost masking the good effects that they could be getting by trying to be healthy and doing the right things.
No, I completely agree. There's a lot that goes into producing any given supplement. And just like maybe you could say like a car, there will be well-made cars and cheaply made cars, and it's up to you to choose which one you want. But it does make a difference because what you want is the active ingredient and nothing else. You have some like some filler material that'll keep it fresh, but that's all you want. You don't want anything else because your body doesn't need anything else. And that's what I focused on with the Quick Kit.
I love that. It reminds me of and it's now, and I always thought this, well, once I figured it out, is I always take electrolytes.
Mm,
And the big one, like I would say 5 years ago, or the most common one was I forget, the liquid IV. Yeah. And so I'm like, oh, I'm doing the right things. I'm taking this great, magnesium and all the things my body needs. And then I started going, well, what's in this? And I started going down the list of things where I'm taking this to be healthier. And yes, maybe it's better than taking nothing. But what's all these like 15 ingredients that I can't even pronounce? And what are they doing for me? This actually isn't that healthy. This might be doing more harm than good. And it's so unfortunate. And we were talking about earlier about like what's wrong with America. This is
mm,
it. So you have
mm.
people who are even trying to do right things, but because of the sneaky way that they cut the standards or infuse other stuff or don't give you good quality, you could actually do more harm than good thinking you were doing the right things.
Yeah, you can have all the best intentions in the world and the cool graphics on the side of those boxes, the liquid IV boxes. I remember from a chemical engineering perspective, I saw it has one glass equal sign, three glasses, and I'm just like, huh? Like, how can you
Wait, that
get
doesn't
three
make
times
sense?
the H2O from one glass of H2O? And it's just that's it's not what it is.
Wait, that's not a thing. I can't drink one liquid IV and
Can't
all of a
do
sudden it's like I drank a
that.
gallon of water.
If you figure that out, you will win the Nobel Prize. You will change the universe.
Yeah, but that's what we're tricked into, right? So they make it cheap, they make it accessible, they make it easy, they have all this like misleading information. It's
Yeah,
really what's wrong with what's
yeah.
happening with the health of our people. So even people who are trying to do the right things, they're getting bamboozled into bad products.
Yeah, that's why I try to be upfront on QuitKit. You have the full supplement panel, and you have the full explanation of why ingredients in there, not just what it is, but why it's in there.
Oh,
And yeah, I try to not be like that, try to be the opposite of
absolutely. No, you are like the anti of that because your cost is
hell yeah.
super affordable. The way that you can take it is very easy. Anybody can do it and feel better. Like, I feel like you've got a phenomenal product, and I'm very excited to help you grow that and help more people.
Thank you. That means the world to me. Thank you for saying that. I appreciate that.
Awesome. All right.
Thank you so much for having me on.
Awesome. Well, thank you for coming on. I really am glad we connected, and let's see what we can do. Let's change the world with good health.
Hell yeah. Let's change the world. Hell yeah.
Awesome.